One of the most interesting things that I've seen very few people talk about is with the emergence of AI and the scale of AI, the blockchain's about to get very important because provenance is gonna really matter as source of information. With deep fakes, with creative that's made by AI, copyright and trademark, Disney's gonna put all their creative on the blockchain so that Midjourney doesn't get paid to extract from that. We are going into one of the most remarkable technology decades of all time, and the blockchain is gonna be the winner. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to answer some questions. It could be about VeeFriends, it could be about anything. To be frank, most of the conversation we just had was more about people's journeys and businesses and other things. So I'd like to go as long as I can not fall asleep, so who's got questions? The thing that we're referring to as the community is very focused on short-term economics, and I'm not pandering to it, not out of disrespect. I don't judge anyone. Anyone can do anything they want with Azuki and Bored Ape, and like, I'm cheering, honestly, I'm cheering for everyone, right? Like, I want Luca from Pudgy Penguins to come. I want Frank the Gods to come. I want them to stand on stage and convince you to sell your VeeFriend and buy theirs. I really do. I really do mean it. I'm incredibly unusual in this space. People think they're competing with each other, and most of the activity right now is based on short-term financial arbitrage. I think they're not reacting because there's a subconscious understanding that I'm not playing to it. We're just very different. Because it's the story of my life. Like, when everyone was opening a lot more liquor stores, I opened a website in 1996, and everyone's like, I just think that I'm not doing the behavior that is enticing people for short-term arbitrage. It all plays out in the end. One of the nice things with the gray hairs is, I've seen this movie before my whole life. Do you know the wine industry hated me when I started Wine Library TV? And now, every day they talk about they wish I was back and how I changed the industry forever and how Robert Parker and Jancis Robinson and Decanter and the Wine Spectator no longer control the industry because of me. When I tell you, as soon as I leave here and I quickly drive back to my hotel and put my head in a pillow and go to sleep, the level of calm in my chest that I know I'm doing something very good for the overall space, but I'm playing it a little different. There's so many things I could do. There's a million things I could do. There's 100 brands right now being like, what can I do for VCon? I could literally say to them, buy 200 tickets off the floor and give them to people. Then the price would go up. I'm just not affected by the short-term judgment. What more can we do? More and more and more until everyone wakes up. But right now the climate is not based on looking at those variables. It's momentum of conversation. It's also me not, I tend to like to be the bigger person and I don't try to fight. People like to believe in cynicism or negativity as a protection mechanism. Nobody here wants to be let down by me, so it's easier to believe in the counter. People are looking for short-term arbitrage. A lot of people are logically like, Gary's doing everything and it's not moving, so let me buy a meme coin that will go up 4x based on nothing. So there's just like the majority of the community as a whole right now is strictly in for short-term financial arbitrage, which is amazing and fine, like no judgment. It's also 0.0001% of the world. Like we haven't started yet, so I appreciate it. I think you're having I think you're right, but I don't know, I'm like excited about it. Like one of the most interesting things that I've seen very few people talk about is with the emergence of AI and the scale of AI, the blockchain's about to get very important because provenance is gonna really matter as source of information. With deep fakes, blockchain's gonna become important. With creative that's made by AI, copyright and trademark, Disney's gonna put all their creative on the blockchain so that Midjourney doesn't get paid to extract from that. Like, we are going into one of the most remarkable technology decades of all time, and the blockchain is gonna be the winner. I'm excited that I fully think we're gonna win. And when I say win, I'm like, win. Like 22 years from now, everyone's like, which were the projects that did well? I'm like, I struggle to see a scenario where we're not one of the 5 of them. And so, feeling good. Like the other day, somebody out of left field just bought a ton of Series 1s. I had a meeting in Singapore. One of the reasons I went to Asia was one of the biggest art collectors in the world asked for a meeting. And I spoke to him for 30 minutes and he's like, and I've been so burned by speculation, so it was a funny meeting. By nature, I want to sell, but I was like, hey, man, I'm making no promises. I'm like, I could just tell you I'm gonna work on this, but like, it was a wild meeting. Like, he was there with 2 financiers and like, basically asking me, like, should they buy $1 to $5 million of Series 1 VeeFriends and put it away for 15 years? And I'm like so shook by the last year, I'm like, you do what you want to do. Look, VeeFriends is a collectible with a utility, right? And like, I think about it as like, I have to make this Spider-Man 1 or Michael Jordan rookie card. And I think that's what's gonna be required for this era to win. And I'm excited about the momentum lately, kind of quote unquote behind the scenes, and we'll see how it plays out. But to your point, the micro current Web3 Twitter Discord community, to your point, I'm not sure I can do anything for them right now, and that's okay, I respect that. I'm just gonna keep building blocks and we'll see where it all ends up. Sure, because the way I built Wine Library was based on the thesis of social media. Before social media, there was something called email and Google AdWords that basically was the social media. My passion is understanding underpriced arbitrage and then being creative within it. I'm very into that. Most people don't think what they love can be a business. Yeah. So what I'm about to ask you is like, in a world where you don't know where to go, what are the things that you're most into? And whether that's golf or football or tennis or cooking, most people don't think like their love of rap is a business when it can be. You could build an enormous $20 million media property that covers emerging hip hop artists. You could. Well, I think you stay on if I'm you, I'm Googling the biggest, literally the biggest football companies in the world, enter. And you start reading these lists and you're like, wait a minute, I do like apparel. Wait a minute, I do think it's interesting to do a pop-up and events. You can do an events business, you can do an apparel business, you can rep the athletes, you can like come up with 39 things. Well, why don't you do something where the world is now? Why don't you build an app based on AI that helps people create a training regimen for their 10-year-old on how to be better at football, where they enter in 7 questions and then behind the scenes, your AI answers that question for them ad hoc, and you charge them $39.99 to do it, and you run Facebook ads that acquires customers at $7, and you make $33 in profit because the AI does the work for you in 3 seconds. Keep pushing yourself at football. Just a different version of something else within it. For me, it costs nothing because when you're truly in a place of not having expectation in return, it becomes net neutral. Yeah. To your point, when resentment or needs start to creep in, you get into a place where you may struggle with deploying kindness, and I'm empathetic to that. But I would argue that that is in control of you. If you wake up and you feel like, man, I'm giving, and these 4 I've been giving aren't returning, well, you're in control of stopping your giving. I really do think that people struggle with the concept of giving without expectation, even when they say it. Right. And then what I say to friends who are good at giving to a point without expectation, but then there's a cross the line where they start to subconsciously or consciously expect, I just remind them to not cross that line.
So how do you recharge yourself?
By not crossing the line.
Ooh.
Or when I do cross the line, by being fully accountable that I crossed the line. And so I can't be mad at Johnny or Sally or Ricardo. I crossed the line. True giving, true love, true kindness is genuinely not expecting in return. Having expectations for something in return is fine. It's just a different version of that. That's giving with expectation. And I argue that a lot of people fake give and are manipulating. I think there's so many people that posture. People love to say what they've done on their terms that nobody asked for, and then cry about what they didn't get in return.
Hi, Gary.
Got it? You can control it. Giving without expectation, super easy for me. Being vulnerable and asking for help, impossible. Real weakness of mine. You know, I struggle with that question. You know, the truth is, God, it's really hard. Like, I was so trained you know, as a first generation immigrant where my mom's like, you take care of your sister at 4. So I'm like, all right, I'm a fucking 4-year-old and I'm like, I'm in work mode, right? My dad's not around, I'm my mom's partner in crime. I start working at 14. I become the financial impact to my whole family at 18. I don't really have like the capacity or like the training to understand how to ask for help, nor the other so you've got all that framework. Here's the more complicated part. The truth is, I'm uncomfortably simple. Like, something that I think would surprise you if you really, really knew me is how detached I am from my own success. It's really weird to me. Like, I'm almost like, what the fuck? Like, I don't really get validation or affirmation from my career. That's why I called it VeeFriends. I like am more in tune with getting like validation from like being a nice person and building friends than I do of like making money or this and that. Like, so like, it's weird. Like, I'm trying to push myself, right? I've learned to be better at candor. Spoke about that in the book that some of you have a lot of copies of. And the thing I'm trying to be better at is being vulnerable and asking for help. But the truth is like, where I'm getting caught up is it's just good for me. Meaning like, it's simple. Like, I'm not overly struggling with anything. It like the thing that makes me the happiest is for you to be happy. You know, like, honestly, like, what can you do for me? Buy and sell VeeFriends when you want to, not based on anything I do, right? You be accountable to you. I'm out here doing my thing, you do you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, simplicity, but it's very sweet of you. I'm very grateful for that question. Honestly, like, listen to what I'm saying in my content. You wanna make me happy? Go act on the shit that I'm talking about, because everybody here would be a lot happier. Thank you. Your community's gonna go there without you or not. That's an outrageously audacious answer. Like, you know, your sentence at the end is your vulnerability. You think by you going there and making content, you're bringing your community. Your community is gonna go there regardless of you. They already have. You're only contemplating it now because they've started to. How long have you been following my content?
Years. And I've been listening.
Right, but if you were acting on it, you would have been on TikTok 4 years ago. But because it was working for you on the other platforms, you'd preferred it didn't happen. The reason you're asking the question now is you're starting to sense that you're not converting on the other platforms at the same level because too much attention is going to TikTok. Your community's already going there, whether you post there or not. Makes sense, right?
100%.
100%. You've got to be there. Like, this is what people don't understand. You posting there doesn't move them. They're moving anyway. We don't own our community. I don't feel like I own anybody here. I feel like tomorrow I have to provide more good content. Otherwise, there's other options.
No, not really.
Thank you. You know, I appreciate what you're saying. I watch every day and I'm like, when is everyone gonna figure out what the fuck I'm doing? Because everyone, as a matter of fact, I think the momentum's going the other way. I would argue the people that are most growing right now are incredibly selfish for their wants. I'll tell you where I'm at on that. The mistake where I wasn't thoughtful enough was I was very good at, and a lot of people here know this, at the height of the heat of the best of the nirvana, here I come starting to make tons of videos saying 99% of the shit's going to zero. So I did that well. What I didn't do well was, I wish, and I don't regret often, but I wish I made comments of like, hey, if 99% are going to zero, there's price correction and you need to sell any VeeFriend you want at the time that you want. So what was challenging, I've been asking myself like, why did, you know? And I'm like, I know too much of what I'm doing. And so I'm not looking at it from an up and down standpoint because I myself have never sold a share of Facebook or Uber or Snap. And so I'm kind of like, go to sleep if you believe in something, go. The problem is that's not everyone's strategy, nor should it be. It would have been smart for me to sell Facebook at 300 and rebuy it at 80, but I've always known that it's impossible to time shit. And that's where I got caught. So the answer to your question is, if you can buy a pony right now on the open market for less, then it was good. But if I do what I'm planning on doing and it's like 5 times more, then it was better. Like, it's all a timing thing. What I would tell you, brother, is you gotta stay consistent down the line and realize sometimes it's gonna go well and sometimes it's not. Sure. And like, what I did poorly was I didn't tell people feedback and then I surprised them, even though they sucked, and I blamed it on them for not being self-aware, but it was my fault. My advice is to really find your balance of giving people feedback, and then, you know, to me, what we're trying to do at Vayner, what I'm trying to do is like, the 3rd time I'm giving feedback, I'm like, hey, like I'm gonna really need to see a change. Sure. Or like, this may not end up a way, like really setting up like, hey, if we're gonna talk a 4th time, this is probably gonna, and so like, people are not as surprised anymore, and it's really been healthy for us. It's stunning how much this was a weakness of mine. My personal life failures, my professional life failures, the candor has been an issue. The learning is stay consistent. Some things are gonna work out, but if you stay consistent, they'll all come back to you in a good way.
Some feedback.
Yeah, don't have a kind candor firing without feedback before you did it. Think of like, I know baseball's not big in this country, but like, think of it as 3 strikes, you're out, right? Have the first talk and be like, hey, there's some stuff going on. Everybody you work with doesn't like you. And that can't be all of their faults. Let's talk about it. Most people are gonna be defensive. Oh, you don't fucking know, Rick and Sally and Junior are terrible. I'm like, okay. A couple months later, I'm like, well, Rick, Junior and Sally don't work for you anymore, and Carol, Susie, and Juan think you're a piece of shit too. So we got a problem here. You know what I mean? You start building, so that. Why kind candor is important is if you're just kind and not candorous with family, there's a very big chance that you can end up resenting him. If he's not good, and you just carry him because he's your nephew, you're gonna build resentment. And I've worked with family my whole life, both my brother-in-laws, my brother, my dad, respect. You know, I think a couple things. One, candor is gonna matter because you gotta be careful. You know, right now he's crushing what he's doing, but you know, you guys are both gonna keep growing. And we all, me included, we all have ceilings. And so candor matters. I think the other thing is, the thing that has worked for me is I just don't value the money more than the family. My brother and my dad got way more value out of our relationships than I did financially. And there's parts of it that I have resentment for, but I realized in my older age that was because I couldn't communicate. If I said something, maybe they would have adjusted, but I didn't, right? And so over communicating, not valuing the dollar more than the relationship, and realizing, and here's the big one, and I always knew this, and it happened. By the way, I don't work with either of my brother or my dad in a real way right now, right? I always knew that it didn't have to be forever, and that there was a gracious way for it to stop. And so you guys might work together for 17 glorious years, but maybe then he wants to do something, you know, like you might want to do different things. So I would say that family over money, gotta find a way to communicate in case there's, you know, resentment, and knowing that it doesn't have to be forever. You know, I think a lot of times when people think family, it's like blood for life. But like, you're both very young, really, no bullshit. And so things will twist and turn. Oh God, I love you so much. I'll tell you why. You're taking control. Even saying that out loud in front of us, you're subconsciously doing the right stuff. I'm proud of you. You have to understand, everything good is when you put it into the light. You just talked in front of 50 fucking people about your concern about it, which means you're in control or in the process of being in control of it. When I started talking about kind candor, a lot of you followed me for a long time. There was no candor talk prior to the book. Once I started talking about it, I was like, aha, got you. You understand? Everything every person here is scared about: weight, hair, age, income, relationship, a skeleton in your closet. The second you put that motherfucker into the world, you got control. Every second that you're keeping it in some sort of closet, it's got control. The answer to your question is, you've already won. You just gotta go through the motions. You just put it out, you're already there, you know? It's really good, I'm really happy for you. Like I do that a lot, what you just did. And it's powerful, you know? It's 8 Mile, Eminem. If you put out the comment about your lines, nobody else can put out the comment about your lines. I'm proud of you, it's really good. And I hope you, and I'm really happy that you did it, because it allowed me to talk for the last 2 minutes about it. And I know every single person here has got something. Because we're humans. We all got something. We really do. And you know, some of it's small and petty and silly and you're dealing with it very easily. But if you're dealing with something that's really bothering you, fucking make that video. I'm really fucking proud of you. Let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah, let's do this. Let's go this way.